Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are in the last couple days of this semester, which is part of an insane year. I know I don't even have to talk about that. So thank you all for making the time for coming. This is actually usually one of my favorite things to do every year, is to check in about FYE. We do have a few people who are, well, we have several people here who are longtime veterans. And then I think we have some FYE curious, some brand newbies. So we thought we would do a little, just a quick overview, and then get into the meat of how to do FYE and just kind of share all of our wonderful expertise that we have in the room. So just to start, we're so lucky to have Tangaro here today, because really it's because of his work that the FYE program at UHMC was built. That's the foundational framework for kind of the whole program, really, and how we envision it. And to make it as really probably oversimplified, what we did is we just used his work and thinking to think about building a program around student experience and really understanding that the student journey was at the heart of what we do. So really reframing how we think about what we do around that. He's going to go much more into the Ka'ao and the meanings and the stages, but just to kind of share that that's where all of our work was really from. That's how it was inspired. So FYE at UHMC was, when we were considering that student experience, I was thinking about how it was really about work that was intentional and concerted. And then I really liked the idea of actually it was all of these efforts in concert with one another, which is, we wanted to build a program that had student events where, you know, the typical things like NSO, orientation, campus resource events, those types of things, have mandatory advising, things that we were learning from best practices and research, having frequent communication, access to tutoring and all of the wonderful campus supports that we have, whether they're academic or life skills or financial skills. And peer mentors that would be frequent and kind of in touch and trying to connect with the students. And then, and this was sort of our big work, which was embedding in FYE courses. So what we're going to be focusing on a little bit today is how we thought about how would we build FYE courses and what would that mean? And from a series of focus groups and research and best practices, we came up with these 4 FYE elements, or we identified, we didn't come up with them, but we identified and focused on these 4 FYE elements that all FYE courses would commit to in some level of embedding into their curriculum, however it was most relevant to their content and discipline. So the first was purpose and goal exploration, and this could be anything from helping students explore who they are, why they want to be at college, what they want to do in life, to I really love the example Mike Takemoto used of bringing in examples of artists into his classes so that people could see, if you're interested in this field, this could be a potential path, right? This is what it could look like. Academic skill building, which was, oh, and actually purpose and goal today, Liana is going to have a breakout on that. The second, academic skill development, which Melissa will be talking a little bit more about. That was really thinking about when students are in the class and they're having challenges with time management or, you know, with research writing or whatever it might be, how can we help them in the way we structure our courses? And so one small, wonderful example is professors who maybe scaffolded research or final projects so that there's check-in points, study groups, right? Ability to help them build those time management skills. It's my dog. He's mad at me that I'm not feeding him, so he's throwing his bowl. I don't know if you can hear it. The third element is connection. So really building in peer connection, faculty connection throughout the course, really intentionally, right? Rather than just making group work, really talking about what does that mean when groups don't work and how do we build that skill together. And then, and today that will be Whitney who's going to be leading that session. And then we have campus connections, and Aubrey's going to be leading this section today. And that was really about bringing in all of those campus resources that we find external to courses, or sometimes we think of external, like financial aid or those types of class programs, and bringing them right into the classroom, connecting them directly to our students. So that's just a little bit about what we thought of when we thought of FYE courses. And I'm gonna let Eddie take away some of the results from this work.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, everyone. So, and thank you for being here this morning. So many of you have seen these slides actually from when this was presented in fall 2018 convocation. When all of the puzzle pieces we just reviewed are put together, we believe it may have led to improved retention. Students enrolled in at least one FY course had 14% higher, or this is significantly higher retention for fall 17 to spring 18. And when comparing fall to fall retention, we had 9% higher fall 17 to fall 18 retention than students who did not enroll in FY courses. And for fall 20, we wanted to show you where we are this academic year so far. Students who enrolled in at least one FYE designated courses had 4%, so 75 minus 71, 4% higher fall to spring retention rate than FYE students who did not enroll in FYE designated courses. So, mahalo to all of you who have been teaching FYE courses, and this is just, just we're collaborating every semester, every year to make this happen. So mahalo to all of you. Yeah, so we wanted to also look at and review with you what FYE looks like for fall 21. We will be offering 62 FYE designated classes that will be taught by 26 faculty members. And of those, we will have 3 learning communities. And as of now, 361 students are enrolled in FYE designated courses. So yay. And FYE for fall 21. Students will continue to receive supports from across the campus, and that includes early alert welcoming event, which will be happening on August 18th. So if you can save your marking calendar, FYE designated courses, and then peer student support, and of course mandatory academic advising. And before moving on to the next slide, I'd like to underline again that FYE is an initiative that encompasses the entire campus, that includes academic personnel, as well as student services, support staff, student peer mentors, and we're all working together to improve our students' experience. And each of these activities we reviewed just now are intentional, as Laura also mentioned, and have specific goals that are directly related to factors that can support students and at the time that they need it, or we empower them to succeed on their own. So thank you.
And I think the next part we were gonna welcome Tangaro. I don't know if Joyce wanted to do an introduction, and Tangaro, I don't know if you wanted to, how about, should I just stop share?
Yes, please stop share. He has some slides to share. So I didn't really prepare an introduction for Taupouri Tagaro, but he is from Hilo, and he crafted and created the Ka'ao Framework, or the Ka'ao Model. And he's been doing a lot of work for many, many years at Hilo with different cohorts, as well as different groups. And I'm so happy to be working with Taupouri these few years through the Manaya Maui grant, and getting to know him. And I hope you all can meet with him and get some information and some ideas from Taupouri. And maybe Taupouri, you can say a little bit more about yourself. I didn't do you justice, but you can tell that we're all very much, we all love the work that you're doing, as well as, just you as a person. So thank you, Taupouri, for being here today.
So I'm going to start my 10 minutes now, okay? I'm not counting your introduction in my 10 minutes. Okay. Aloha no kako. It's nice to see some of your faces. And I really actually even stepped up my volunteer work to, it's really not volunteer, but in my mind, if I volunteer, I come to it a whole lot more better. But to be working with you folks as small groups or individuals, I actually kind of threw myself on Joyce's mat and says, Joyce, can you please use me? Can we please intersect some of our resources? I would love to be working directly with you. It is not an easy thing for a campus to pick up an initiative and then begin to own it. It's really not easy. You know, it's easier if it comes from the grassroots from within that campus. So because the Ka'ao Framework is working and is working on many, many levels, and Maui was really interesting. It began, my primary campus is Hawaii Community College. Although the University of Hawaii at Hilo like to sell me as one of theirs, I'm a graduate of that school and I contribute to that school, but I actually work between the two campuses. But Ka'ao is moving. And you know the reason why Ka'ao is moving? Ka'ao is based on storytelling. It's our oldest form of communication. That's our storytelling is how we began to conceptualize our place in the world. Every people have it around the world. So, you know, when we look at Ka'ao as a way of transmitting information, knowledge, innovations, going beyond the norm. In the human period, you set a norm and then you have to break it and you go, and we're products of that continuous evolution. Well, we've been telling stories a whole lot more than we've had Western schools of higher education before the college and the university system has begun. We've been telling stories forever. And in fact, some of us are products of the baby boomers. You know, that generation, they like to say we're one of the last generations that told stories, but that's not true. We continuously tell stories and we just tell stories differently. But that's why the Ka'ao is a working, it works. So I'm going to be sharing with you just a little bit of what we're doing with Ka'ao now, and then when we do the breakout groups, if you're there, I would like to begin to, you know, work with you. If I can share this screen, I'm assuming that you have the basic understanding of Ka'ao as a four-part component. It's based on transformation. It's based on mythology of Hawaii because we're in Hawaii, and if we were all in Hopi reservation, you know, then we'll look at the Hopi stories. If we're in the British Isles, we'll be looking at Celtic mythology. So, you know, this Ka'ao process is not exclusive to Hawaii. We can transport it anywhere because the world has been telling stories from the beginning. Now, this is a Ka'ao at a glance, and this is one of the activities that we're encouraging people, our faculty and our staff to do. So when our students come in to our door, you know, to our offices, or they come into our websites, they see immediately our story at a glance. And why? That's because that will begin to inform them that we're looking for your story. This is a person that will help you via storytelling. Okay, and so, you know, we look at Hua, Ha'alele, Hua Kai Ho'ina. I choose a theme, and this one here is some connection, because one day I wake up and I feel like connecting is my biggest theme of the day. And I can look at connection through the period of my life. Other people will have different stories. And so this is where the beginning of Ka'ao. You know, what's your story? You're coming to college, but really, what are your values? What are you bringing to the campus? Why are you in this degree? How is this degree going to advance your values? And then as a result of going through and getting your degree, when you return back to community, what will you be able to do to raise the well-being of your community? And so, you know, this is it. This is at a glance. But then, if you know Kate Sims, our professor in English, we had a meeting. She goes, okay, Tangaro, it was an FYE Ka'ao meeting. She goes, okay, Tangaro, is there such a thing as too much ka'ao. So I'm thinking, there can never be such a thing as too much ka'ao. But I said, of course, what do you mean? And she says, well, you know, the our students are coming into our FYE Ka'ao designated courses. And they go from one course to the other course. And now they're saying, oh, you know, the teacher asked me that question, what's my hua? Oh, I'm doing my Ka'ao at a glance. You know, 4 of my classes are asking me, what's my hua? Is there, you know, and so, you know, there could be, if we don't scaffold this and scale it up, we could be stuck on hua. And that's not where we want to be stuck on, because there's a whole lot more to than just one person's catalyst. And so this began a whole, another kind of discussion. And let me share this with you. And so my phone was just ringing. Talk about, I have 2 screens and a phone just to keep me focused here. So this is what we want our students to begin to transform out of the idea, that I'm coming to college, I'm going to go for this degree, help me get this degree. That's good. We're not displacing that. That's a great thing with Ka'ao, is we don't have to displace it. We just have to couch it within a context. And this is the future student. Here is my dream. How will my degree contribute to it? That's where we're heading at. We want our students to come not with their degree interests, but with their dream. They may not know it in all clarity, but they ought to have some inclination. And how is this degree going to advance that dream? For institutions, because Ka'ao is not just for the student. Ka'ao is for the institution also. The institution one day will be able to say this: what is your big dream, to the student or to the community? What is your big dream? Here, let us learn together how this course will contribute to your big dream. That's where, and this is where FYE is very, very important. Sometimes when students don't see themselves in that course, or they don't see themselves in that study, they don't know how they relate to the course. It's just a checkoff list in a program that they have to go through. Then, you know, they lose an opportunity to see themselves within that course. We lose an opportunity to help the students see themselves in the course, or how can this course, whether you like it or not, advance your dream. So this is Ka'ao, the framework defined, and this is how Ka'ao may look when I just grabbed your intro to admin justice. So I'm looking at Ka'ao. How can we scale it up? Well, we can look at course learning outcomes. Every course learning outcome is different. This is in the world of assessment. We're looking from here. I just went through your catalog and I grabbed, I was able to build a Ka'ao activity out of the introduction of 2 of your courses, AJ 101 and HDFA 230. So I still have the Hua Ha'alele Hua Kai Ho'ina, but now I'm taking some, in the case of AJ, I'm looking at law enforcement. I could look at corrections, I could look at courses or courts, and then I just build an opportunity for the students to see their life as it intersects with law enforcement. When was the first time that they became aware of it? When did their interests begin to point them into this direction? And now that you are, and now that you're in college, you know, what is your journey like? And what are you going to do as a result of this? Same thing with the human development. You know, not that we want to get straight to death, but it's in their description. So if we're to use the Ka'ao process to connect the student's story to the course introduction, that again opportunes a coming together of the student. They can now see themselves in the course. They can see the course in their life, and this can be applied to any of their courses, whether it's you know, it's any of the course in the certificate or their programs. We can even look together in learning outcomes of your courses and build Ka'ao there, the program learning outcomes and institutional learning outcomes. For the institution, we can look at Ka'ao through your living value statement. I know more about your college than I know about mine right now because I was up early this morning looking at all this. You see where Ka'ao, so we don't always have, Ka'ao doesn't have to always be about, well, what is your catalyst in life? Ka'ao can be about how is your life intersect with this particular course you're in, or this particular value of do you know that the university has this value? And how does your life reflect in this value, or the value reflected in your life? Look at your core values. You have all of this. We can build Ka'ao out of this. The main thing is the students step in the framework of Ka'ao. It doesn't always have to be just about them. I done a Ka'ao for an institution, the Kamehameha schools. I created Kamehameha schools, a Ka'ao at a glance. So students can even take Ka'ao to understand not just their story, but the story of an institution. The story of, better yet, a story of their peers. By understanding their Ka'ao, they can begin to support the other Ka'ao of their peers, their instructors, their administrators, their leaders in the community. And so that's where we're going. And so if you join the talking groups, the little breakout groups, we'll be looking at how can we grow Ka'ao beyond just what's your hua? Why are you here? Yeah. So that's my 10-minute.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And I hope you had some really great conversations. I noticed that no one actually put down their notes, but let's go from group to group. And if somebody would share out some of the key highlights, we have 10 minutes for this part. And let's start with you, Whitney, student-peer connection.
Sure, thank you. So in our group, we had Mark, Karen, Wayne, and Eddie. So we had a really good mix of instructional faculty as well as counselors. And from the instructor perspective, we discussed the importance of icebreakers and instructors being very involved in those icebreakers to add the human element. We talked about the difference between live discussions and asynchronous discussions. So using discussion forums rather than, Zoom or vice versa. We talked about, let's see, I didn't put notes online because I was actually handwriting my notes as everyone was talking. So I'm looking through it now, my messy writing. Karen mentioned giving extra credit for responding as opposed to making it a requirement, which is something that I do. So I thought that was really interesting. We talked about logging in early. So when students, instead of students having instead of making your office hours like a completely different day or much, later or earlier than class, have it, a brief talk story session tied to either, the half hour before class starts or afterwards. So students can not only talk to you as the instructor, but also each other when they come in. And then counselors mentioned, they hear a lot, from students. And Eddie mentioned, they do not tell students, you have to take this instructor instead of this instructor. They don't do that at all. It's more, they just kind of know how instructors run their classes, right? Whether there's a lot of peer connection or whether it's very little. And they give them more that objective information, like this is what this instructor does, this is what this instructor does, and letting students decide themselves, because Eddie brought up a really good point that, everyone's an individual, right? And everyone learns differently. So just giving them that objective information puts the ball in their court and allows them to decide, what teaching style would work best for them and whether peer connections are important to them. So we didn't even get to all of our discussion questions. We were, we had a good discussion and we didn't have a chance to talk about challenges. We talked more about strategies. Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. Aubrey, would you share on Campus Connection?
Yeah, and I'll just share screen really quickly. So we kind of went through and talked about the resources that we've brought into our classes, even some that we don't, but we think we need to spend more time on building those partnerships and relationships. We talked about, when we invite speakers or these resources into our classroom, what they're doing, encouraging our students to attend workshops, to just really get to know the different campus resources, the people on campus at a more personal level. Neil brought up a great point that, the more people you bring in, the more different types of people, the higher your chances are of a student connecting with somebody that, they vibe with, and just helping make that really comfortable for them to know that these resources are for them. We also talked about how we embed these resources into our class lessons and activities, and things like making an assignment to write an essay about a career, or to write a personal statement that, not only tells the student about themselves or has them dive deeper into who they are, but also prepares them for seeking financial assistance in school. And so just really building those connections with financial aid, with our counselors, with peer mentors, with all the different student resource centers, with tutors, and then even taking it outside of our campus community and having students work with interviewing people within our community, or doing service learning projects that has them go out into these organizations. And we really, I think a key thing that came up in our group discussion was just diving deeper into career planning. We had Julia in our group, which was really great. And, even looking at success and retention, and why, some students who have to leave for whatever reason, asking them why they're leaving and what other opportunities we have here on campus that we can offer to them that might help them get to where they need to be, whether it's getting back into the workforce or anything like that. But I think overall, everyone's doing a great job at really working together with our campus resources. And I think the bottom line, the foundation of this element is not only that we're bringing in these people to our classroom for students to build relationships, but we also need to be building partnerships and relationships with each other. So yeah, mahalo nui.
Thank you. Melissa, please share on academic skill development.
Okay, well, like Whitney, as I tell my students, they need to take notes by hand and they'll remember more. So, we had a very fruitful discussion primarily on strategies that we use to embed academic skills, sometimes in ways that the student doesn't know they're acquiring the academic skill, like critical thinking and time management. So we came up with, there are a lot of strategies that are embedded within our group, which was Lindsay, Donna, Laureen, Tim, Mike, and me. And the basics of using annotations, summarizing things, group writing projects, and there's that subtle thing of group connection, but there's also learning to work with a group. Outlines, those of you who know me know that I'm a big outline proponent requirement, and Tim does one where it's a reverse outline, so that they break an outline down, which is a very solid way of looking at things. A lot of reflection. For the critical thinking, there's a suggestion for the general icebreaker where we want them to make peer connection, learn to work with a group, learn to communicate effectively with one another, doing intros, but then having people study each other's intros in terms of finding commonalities as well as differences, and using a game such as Kahoot to describe the peers. So they're embedded in that is not just the meeting one another, but it's also critical reading, critical thinking, and note-taking skills, because they've got to be taking notes while they do this, and encouraging communication. There was one idea of your favorite fish story. Everyone has to come up with a fish story. You know, it seems as if this might just be an icebreaker, but in reality, they are taking a topic that they have to run with that they may not have familiarity with as yet, and then finding connections further. And that's a critical thinking component as well. There's so many ways to embed critical thinking in this. And then one of my favorites relates to what Aubrey was talking about in terms of campus connection with those secret embedded academic skills, where she's always done this Lindsay's always done this before on campus, where you'd go to the different resources on campus as in partners. So we devised a new one as a group where they'll go on the live chat at the different resources, and two separate partners can interview live chat, different perspectives. They're going to ask different questions. They're getting those interview skills. They're communicating, and then come back and work on this together prior to indicating, well, the end result could be many things. It could be indicating what the resource provides. It could also be how to use the resource. There's just a wealth of opportunity in that idea. And so, group, did I leave something out that I should have conveyed? It's endless. There's so many wonderful opportunities within Ka'ao, and to help them understand that every day is a start of acquiring the skills, a using the skills, and a sharing the skills. And that's Ka'ao in a nutshell.
Thank you, Melissa. And you know, please share all of those notes and maybe any additions, and we'll share it out with everyone. Thank you so much. We're kind of short on time right now, but Liana, will you please share?
Yes, I can be quick and short. So our group was me and Siobhan and Derek and Elizabeth and Bodhi, and we were looking at career exploration, and boy, those 30 minutes go by quickly. You know, how to kind of holistically embed career exploration into assignments, whether that be through interviews, whether it be through looking at family histories, whether it be through doing a deep dive into the focus 2 and then writing a formal paper about it. And it was interesting because Elizabeth was saying that, you know, she doesn't really have FYE students in her program because the students have already chosen a program. And I said, yeah, in some ways it's easier because they sort of are on that journey. But I was saying how important I think it is, no matter what stage they are, whether they're first semester students or fourth semester students, that we have them continually reflect on, why am I here? What are my goals? And two things that really stuck out from Taupouri's quick 10-minute talk that I'm going to do more of is what aspects of this journey were empowering for you? Because so often we have them think about their challenges. What were your challenges? How are you going to overcome those challenges? But if we have focus throughout their entire college journey about what's empowering to them, it gives them more of a positive reflection about why they're here and why they're putting that effort and time and money into doing what we're doing, rather than sort of just mind walking through it, right? And not really knowing. And then the other piece that I'm going to add more into my own classes is, how will your family and community benefit from what you got out of this class? Because then it really makes them have to reflect on, what did I just learn in the last 16 weeks that were so hard, because reading is difficult for me and writing is difficult for me and finding the time to study is difficult for me. But to really have to focus on that positive thing about, what am I going to do with what I just learned and how am I going to bring it back into my community, I think will help us focus on retention, no matter if they're in their first semester of college or the last semester of college. So I'll stop there because I know we're short for time.
Yes, thank you so much. And for Taupouri Tagaro, His was the Ka'ao course implementation, and he has offered time with each and every one of you to get together with your course if you're interested, and help you craft the and put the Ka'ao within your course. Taupouri, would you like to say a few words about that?
Yeah, really, aloha. Really quickly, what we did, we talked about a cohort. How can Ka'ao work with a cohort that's supported by extramural funding, and then how can Ka'ao also make opportunity for other indigenous mythologies to come as a secondary support to the primary Hawaiian stories. Okay, but also what emerged is that some students, in fact, many of our students, are not prepared when they come to college. They don't have their big story in place. They've never been asked about their values. They may, so we cannot create a cookie cutter framework and force them in through the front door, because some people have to begin with the ho'ina in mind. They have to begin with an outcome and then work and help. Because of the outcome, they can now begin to identify their hua, the beginning. So people will start from different sides of the field, but also some students by nature like to start from inside of themselves, their story. Some students by nature are not comfortable starting inside. They need to start from outside. So here's the Princess Bernice Pauahi. I did this as an example of how you can still take the Ka'ao Framework and look at Ka'ao Framework, look at somebody else's story, whether it's an institution or the human behind the institution like Kamehameha schools are, and begin coming to a relationship with Ka'ao via another story, because 55% of Hawaii Island is impoverished, which means they're undereducated, they're the first to lose their jobs, and they get up every day figuring out not about their dream, but how they're going to feed their kids, and pray that their tire don't get flat, because once a tire gets flat, there goes the food, and so they don't have an opportunity to deal with dreams. So if they're coming to college, if we're going to go straight to their dreams, we could abort an opportunity. We might have to begin from different parts of the Ka'ao. And Emma says it would be interesting to see if these are the 4 framework, where are they most likely to, what do they want to talk about? So Ka'ao, what we've learned through this session is Ka'ao doesn't always have to begin with hua. But I would like for you guys to talk to me and let's grow together, because I'm learning. And just today I realized that we never always have to start from hua. We can start Ka'ao from another part of the field. So thank you, Joyce, for making that learning come to me.
And thank you, Taupouri, as well as all of the other facilitators today.
Can I just ask I had someone chat a question. Taupouri, could you tell us, we usually use the term ho'i here at the college, but we noticed that you're using ho'ina, is that right?
Yeah.
And maybe if you could just explain really briefly the difference, or if there is a difference, or just so we...
Yeah. Ho'i means to return. Ho'ina is the condition of returning. So, whereas ho'i could mean one, it's just a physical going back to one place. Ho'ina it speaks to a condition of returning, a longer scope of time. It means ho'i'ana, a continuous returning.
Thank you, Taupouri. The next step is, please save the date for the Ka'ao First Year Experience Institute, which is going to be hosted by Hawaii Community College. It's May 18th, Tuesday, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Any last words, Laura?
Just thank you so much, everybody. And I know that the sessions were amazing. I heard feedback from people who were spying on them. So thank you again, Taupouri. Thank you for coming. And I guess if anybody wants to stay for another minute or so, but otherwise we know you folks are busy. Mahalo.
Contact me. I'm waiting. I'm desperately waiting.
So in the evaluation, I'm going to have an area where if you have interest in meeting with Taupouri one-to-one, that you can indicate that, and we will send it all to you, Taupouri, and you can get together.
Yeah, mahalo guys. Yay, what a great way to begin or end my week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liana. See you at the book club.
Bye-bye.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Lindsay.
Andy. See you, Joyce.
Bye, Melissa.